Hey, it's Libby again here with WootRecruit, and we are continuing on our Profit Flywheel for recruiting. We just covered the accept. Are your candidates accepting your job offer and showing up to the first day? And today we're going to cover that commit. Who's committing through orientation and onboarding? And we're going to jump into what is commit, what does it mean, why is it important, and also what are some key elements that influence the people that make it through this process.
Yeah.
And exactly what that is. So as I prepare, Chris, do your intro and we're going to get started.
So I am Chris. I'm the CTO of WootRecruit. I'm the Chief Technical Officer. So everything systems to make sure that the engine is running smoothly and you get the right processes in front of the right people at the right time.
All right. So we're going to jump into commits. And this is a huge one. And this is one of the most costly mistakes that you can make. And this one kind of hits home because we made this mistake and organized it about 2 years ago, and we had a horrible commit rate. So what is commit? So it's the phase where the new employees stay through training and onboarding, right? Indicating they're committed to the company. So this is going to be different for every single company. Some people have like a 30-day onboarding trial. Some people have a 90-day, some people have a 60-day. So it's through that phase of whatever you consider them like onboarding or I hate that phrase that a lot of people use. What is it called? It's trial period or where it's, and again, this is different for every company. And what is yours? And if you don't have one, get one.
Yeah.
Typically, they're either 30, 60, or 90 days. 180 is a lot. I've seen that. But that's more corporate C-suite stuff. And why is this important? Well, it ensures the new hires go through good training, right? They have good training because this is critical for long-term retention and successful ignition into the company. Right? You want to ignite them into that company. You want to infuse them with the company. And this is important, guys, because at the end of the day, this is what costs us a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
That really comes from profit, that comes from that profit side. Because if we're doing it wrong, we don't really have a huge budget for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little story and organize it. About 2 years ago, we went through 5 people in 5 days. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? We thought, oh, we're perfect. Everything's organized. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Why wouldn't they want to work for us? I said, stop. We're bleeding money at this point. Just stop. This is insanity. We have to figure out what's broken. And it can't always be them. Everyone's, it's them, it's them, it's them. Sorry, 5 out of 5? No, it's us. It is 100% us. So after we looked at it, I reached out to those candidates and I begged them for some feedback. I said, I'd buy you a coffee because they all 5 left on really great terms. They said, we were the nicest people they ever met. They loved us, blah, blah, blah. And what we found out was I had taken the weekend and went and dove into our onboarding. Because this commit is this is onboarding and training. This is that we work so hard to get you when we care about you for the first 2 days and then we forget about you kind of phase. Yeah. So this is through onboarding. So I looked, and after I reached out to some of those that had left during the 5 and 5 days, we found out that we were not as organized and we were chaos. We were allowing our scheduler to create chaos within the onboarding process. And it really hit home because we had this whole structure and this Trello board. And what was happening is because she loves to tinker, she would love to move stuff. She would love to get her hands in things. That scheduler was moving stuff all around, and it was creating this sense of instability to the new people. Where with your current employees, they're kind of like, oh, okay, I'll check my calendar the morning of or the day before. But with new people, there's already a little bit of doubt and fear in them. And with that constant change and update and tweak and this and that, it created this weird sense of instability that scared them all away.
Yeah.
And so we had to parameters, bumpers around things where the scheduler no longer could touch anything when someone was onboarding them. Only one person owned that process and controlled the process. But it hurt, and it cost us so much money to do it wrong, and it was a good lesson to learn. But this is why that commit is so important for you to look at during your your recruiting process, your hiring process. So let's get into some of the key factors. That was my story.
Yep.
Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think we actually touched on one of those key factors really heavily, actually, in that story, which is number one is that structured onboarding process.
Well, it was structured.
Yeah,
it was structured, but we were allowing too many hands in the process.
Yes,
which created chaos.
Yes. So I wanna kind of give a quick little story, but or kind of an example. But firstly, I just want to say that the commit here is really the most interesting one that I see of all of our metrics that we track. It's because this is where people, and I say the companies, typically think of this as we've just passed the gauntlet. We've finally put all the effort into getting somebody in the door.
Now that my ads off.
Now that we have them, and now that we have them in the door, everything is gravy. They're going to stay forever, and they're never going to leave us.
Yeah, that's not happening.
It's might be subconscious, but this is what typically happens through this period. But I want to give the analogy of meeting somebody new and really connecting and finding a new friend. And you're like, okay, great. Let's go ahead and let's go to the store. Okay, perfect. I'll drive. Get in. And then you go ahead and you get in the car. And what you notice in the front seat is that there's about 7 water bottles, half empty. There's a Burger King bag there, and then there's some fries stuffed in the side of the seat. And you're like, oh my goodness.
What did I just get into?
What did I just get into? Same person, different environment. So this is kind of what's happening through this. Again, the gauntlet. We've really put the time and attention into doing things right beforehand, but we haven't yet cleaned up the house or what's behind the door. And so I just wanted to kind of start there and position for the rest of the these really key factors. But this is how organized is that process?
Yeah. And so the influencing factors are structured onboarding process. Like we already hit on that, but a well-organized and clear onboarding process that guides them through, right? Guides that new hire through is essential. It's so important. And it's so important that you stay true to that onboarding process. So if I say, I'm going to give you your supplies on day 3, you better give those supplies on day 3 because you are chipping away at that confidence they have and that trust they have in you, or you're going to get your uniform shirts on day 5. Well, you better give them on day 5. And you better have a way to track it and hold your office accountable or yourself. And it doesn't matter if you're busy. It doesn't matter if their shirts are out of stock. Like you need to make sure that you're meeting your end of the deal, just like you need that applicant that you hired, that you need that new hire to meet their end of the deal.
Yes.
So important to have that structured onboarding on both ends, what the candidate experiences and what the office goes through.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one is supportive environment. Chris just went over that with the Burger King wrapper in a car. Providing a supportive environment during training, during orientation and onboarding really, really helps that candidate feel good, right? You want to maybe think about offering your onboarding almost like providing mentorship. Do they have an onboarding guide, like an expert who's going to take them through that process? Are you giving them resources for onboarding, videos about your company, culture? Hey, go look at this, read this, watch that. When we hire organizers, every one of the organizers I hire have to read the Marie Kondo book. We have certain things that they have to do, and we provide and we give them those resources and pay for them as well, guys. But how can I create a supportive environment? Because we work so hard to get them. I know we're busy. I know there's stuff to be done, but it feels like sometimes we get them in the door and then we said, here, go. Mm-hmm. Here's a trainer, go do your thing. Is not really a great way to sustain that new hire.
Yes. So I absolutely agree. It's having your Sherpa, it's having your guide to get them over the mountain so that they know, this is going to be coming up. We want to make them feel comfortable with what's behind, the next turn.
And make sure that that guide is someone that embodies the culture of your business. Don't let that guide be someone that's just good at mowing lawns or good at cleaning, but has a bad attitude or doesn't embody the culture. I'd rather it be a horrible technician and someone great at culture be the guide than vice versa. So our next one is alignment of the company culture, right? We went right into that. how can I drill this in more? So some good tips are having a private one-on-one meeting, Zoom, or a video that's pre-made with that applicant from the owner to really dive into culture. So at Organize It, we have a 3-hour-long onboarding video that Libby guides them through, but I talk about culture and the company and how we started and why we started and what we do and everything, blah, blah, blah. And, that is no better person to inject the culture of the company than the owner.
Yeah.
So, how can you really align the culture? I mean, our culture is so strong, we scare people away at WootRecruit and at Organize It. So we don't even have to get rid of them. They just get scared.
Yeah.
So, you need to make sure that they align with it and they understand it. Because at the end of the day, we want people that fit our values, right? Because we can teach skill all day long, but we cannot teach character or values.
Yes. And I think this would be a great point to talk about the definition of culture.
Yep.
So that definition is, and help me out here, it's what it's like when the owner's not around. That's the true definition of culture.
Well, I mean, that isn't like the dictionary.
It's not the dictionary, but this is, again,
So it's what the company looks like and feels like when the owner isn't there.
Yes.
So how is your office running the office? How are they talking to the technicians? How are they dealing with customers? How are they talking to each other? How are they conducting themselves? So what does it look like when the owner is not there? So culture is hard to measure because we cannot see it. You can feel it kind of, but it could be perceived feeling. We can feel it, but it's hard to measure. And we all think that sometimes, we have great culture. But I want you to think of culture like a country, right? Each business is like a little country. And just like every country has its culture injected into it, they speak a certain language, they have certain clothing, they might even have a country flag. What is the country culture of your business? Right? And think of it like that, like it's a country. And how can I make it even more, right? How can I go even deeper with culture? And it's funny because I'm going to say this. And one great way to build camaraderie and culture is to have a common enemy.
Yeah.
No one, you cannot get a team to rally the way you can around a common enemy than anything else in the world. Like we will rally around a common enemy. So at Organize It, we always say and I'm sorry if your name is Molly, but we're like, don't be a Molly, because we're saying it's Molly Maids, and that's our competitor, and it's just fun. We have no problems with Molly Maids, but we're like, don't be a Molly, and it's just fun, and all the technicians get behind it, and they start laughing, and we call one of our meetings not a Molly meeting. So how can I rally my people? How can I get them involved more? And again, it sounds negative, but you cannot get people to rally around something so strong than you can a common enemy.
Yes.
Actually, our common enemy or our biggest competitor is really the cleaning authority. No, Maid Pro in our town. But we couldn't come up with a fun name for Maid Pro, so we picked Molly Maids, was our second biggest competitor. So that's why we went with that one. But it's fun, and we don't post it socially or publicly because we're not looking to fight with anyone. We're just looking to really jazz up the team and get them excited about something, to go out there and crush it. So there are so many ways that you can look at culture. But Chris has he created a little formula about what's your perceived culture versus how much you're actually doing.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's what your ideal culture looks like. So what this is, it's a formula for what I call net culture. Again, this is kind of afterwards what it truly is. But you have your ideal culture. It's what you have in your mind as the owner on what it's supposed to be, sunshines and rainbows. And then you have, all these little, inconsistencies, let's say, in how somebody experiences your culture over time. So again, every step that we've seen here so far in the Profit Flywheel, there's been probably some inconsistencies in how the applicant experienced that culture coming through. And what's remaining is your net culture. It's the true culture that they see and understand as truth.
Yeah. And so we cannot talk enough about culture. Every great book, every great coach, every great mentor always talks about culture, culture, culture. And it's because it is the most important thing.
Yeah.
The next one is emotional bank account. So this is something that Chris is really big on. It's funny because he's taught like our account managers this. He talks about it with our children. But, making those positive emotional deposits by providing support, recognition, and resources during the onboarding process is so, so important, right? Because it can't just be a give, give, give or take, take, take. It's a give and take. That's that emotional bank account. If I want to take something, I have to give a little.
Yes.
But we need it back from them too. But again, we lead by example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that we've hinted towards the emotional bank account through many of these steps before, if you've watched the rest of the videos. But, everybody has that emotional bank account in terms of how they feel. Again, everything is all about people and feeling. So it's really just making sure that you're always leaving a positive impact on people, that emotional bank account, making more deposits in that feel-good moment of their experience. And when you ask them to do something, that takes a little bit of a withdrawal from that emotional bank account. But if you have enough deposits, if you give enough reason for them to stick through certain things, then you're still going to be in the positive. Again, just really that being the goal.
Yes, absolutely. So some key takeaways here for you guys to remember is the importance of, just a great onboarding experience so you can get them committed through that process and ignite them successfully into the company. And then you really want to look at, do I have structure to this? Do I have a strategy? Is it different every time? Is it the same? Like, is what we noticed and organized it before we had a process was every new hire got a different experience.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to them because it was being like affected by our current emotional state and day.
Yeah.
So some like a bad day, that person would get a bad onboarding experience. Like I was having a great day, they'd have a great onboarding experience. And so that's not fair to the candidate or the business, right? Or the other techs in the field or the office. So make sure you have a strategy, implement that strategy. Well, first design it, implement it. You want to structure it to your company. And then you want to make sure another takeaway is the hand-holding phase. How long are you going to handhold during this onboarding process, during orientation, right? During the probation period?
Yeah.
How long do you handhold? How long is it? What does it look like? Give them an outline, but make sure you hold yourself accountable to that too. And then lastly, another takeaway is those emotional deposits and withdrawals. How do you look? And as the owner, I know that we want to say, oh, but we're giving them a job and we're paying them and they should show up and they should do it. But they're not doing it for me. But at the end of the day, we are the business, we are the owner, and we have to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
And we have to do these things to show them this is how we run this company and this is how we treat people. So we expect that in return. So, and if you're not getting that in return, that just shows you not a core value fit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great thing to do and watch and learn and see how your other people step up to it or step down from it. So hopefully you loved this one. This was the commit. Again, on our prior video, we covered the accept to accept your job. On our next video, we're going to talk about like one of the most important ones is retain. How do we retain these great employees? And we're going to retain them for culture. And we're going to dive into that in our next video. So make sure you stay tuned. And if you missed any of the prior ones, make sure you go back and check those out.